All right, well, everyone, holding by Pirke Avos, ethics for our fathers, as is known. Again, well, everyone, holding by Pirke Avos, ethics for our fathers, again, as it is known. We are in chapter two, Mishna 15. This is part 32. There will be most likely a part 33. Most likely a part 44, depending how we go through this. So again, we are holding by the 15th Mishnah in the second chapter. The Mishnah says in the name of Rebbe Eliezer, right? We mentioned that you would say that the honor of your fellow should be precious to you as your own, right? Do not be easy to anger. Repent one day before your death. Warm yourself is what we've been speaking about for the last number of weeks. Warm yourself by the fire of the sages, but beware lest you be burned by its embers. For their bite is the bite of a fox, sting is sting of a scorpion. Their hiss is the hiss of a serpent. All their words are like fiery coals. So we spoke last week about this idea that basically, going rabbi shopping, we said it's forbidden. Meaning, if you ask a rabbi a question, let's say a halachic question, and unless they make an egregious mistake, you don't like their answer, you can't go looking for another opinion. So you can't rabbi shop, right? As we mentioned, unless there's a serious mistake, what they said. So that's a different issue. But we did mention as well, in that, let's say there's a question about Jewish philosophy. Right? We mentioned this last week, spoke quite a bit about it. I don't want to go more into it, but if there's a question in Jewish philosophy, now a question in Jewish philosophy does not necessarily have one answer. Could be multiple answers, right? Different ways of looking at things doesn't necessarily mean if, you get two rabbis disagree, earlier commentators, later commentaries, or whatever it is, doesn't mean just because they disagree that, that's heresy. Now, if they go against, main tenets in Judaism, right? Like, any of the 13 principles of faith, right? The God is absolute. There's reward and punishment, right? Someone would say there's no reward and punishment. Yeah, that would be a problem. Or the fact that, maybe stuff happens, God doesn't punish, or whatever. Yeah, that would be a problem. Or if they deny the coming of the Messiah or resurrection of the dead, right? These are problems. These are problems because these are main tenets. These are main tenets of Judaism. But, if they have a difference of opinion, let's say there's difference of opinion how they look at the state of Israel, right? There are people that believe, it's a big mitzvah to be a Zionist, right? To live in the land, right? Difference of opinion between the Rambam and the Ramban, right? Nachmanides and Maimonides, whether it's a mitzvah to live in the land or not, right? One opinion is absolutely there's a mitzvah to live here. Another opinion is no. If you can get here, very good, right? Not everyone has the merit to be here, but there were great rabbis couldn't get here for a lot of different reasons. So there's a mitzvah if you can do it. Meaning, if you can't do it, right, there are different reasons not to come to the land of Israel. One is you earn better outside the land. Let's say, parnasa, livelihood. That's another good reason, right, not to come. You know what they say? The big joke is, how do you make $2 million in Israel? Bring $1 million with you, right? Not easy to live here, no question. And that's a major issue. To marry somebody is an issue, right? That would definitely be an issue, family wise. You have family obligations, right? Or livelihood issues. Or let's say a person has certain health issues, right? Certain health issues, and for whatever reason, they are dealt with better, right? They are dealt with better outside of Israel. Okay. Yeah. So, that also could, potentially be a reason. But again, it has to be a legitimate reason why someone can come here. There are, I would say there are probably a lot of people who don't want to come here. Yeah. It's not a question of livelihood. It's not a question of other things. They don't want to come, right? For whatever reason, we'll just say we're coming, closer to the 17th of Tammuz, destruction of the temple, right? Past 17th Tammuz coming up next week. So, there's an idea, about the exile and a lot of things about the temple we don't fathom today, only because we don't have a temple in Jerusalem. So, we don't have the outer wall. So we don't necessarily know what we're missing, have God's presence here and other things. But we do understand, a lot of things happen in the land of Israel that are above nature, no question. There's definitely no question about that. But nonetheless, so again, you have a very strong, you can have a very strong difference of opinion about coming to the land, about living in the land. Now, the question would be, okay, this is a big philosophical controversy here. Whether, a person should live here, shouldn't live here, whatever the case is. Now, the fact that, let's say, you have rabbinic authorities disagree, does that really matter? Does it make someone a heretic if you hold on one side against the other? Right? And the answer is no. Now, there is one issue. Just going to point out one issue. There is one issue, and that is some people that are very strong, about Jews living in the land. Right? They're, very adamant every Jew should live here. Not only should they live here, they should do the army, and all that. But for some people, I'm not going to say across the board, but for some people, that borders on idolatry. Now, I got to say why. Maybe they're just very passionate, right? Maybe they're just very passionate about living in the land. True, right? That could very well be. But some of these same people will say you're allowed to go up on the Temple Mount, right? We've said before that's a huge problem for Jews. Non-Jews would be allowed to go on the Temple Mount. Vast majority of Orthodox rabbis say you can't go up there because you don't know exactly where you're going to stand, right? We don't know, exactly where the Holy of Holies is. So by going up there, the main issue is we're in a state of impurity, and therefore, a person will get spiritually cut off by going up there. Some people will say we know where to stand, so that's not an issue. But there's another issue, right? There's a halachic issue going up there, which the vast majority, again, of rabbinic authorities hold Jews should not go up there. But there's another issue. The other issue is for the Arabs. For the Arabs, it's a issue of religion. Now, even if the Quran doesn't mention, Israel or Jerusalem or whatever, for them it's a religious issue. So if Jews want to go up there and they want to pray, for them that's a provocation. Now, some people say if I walk in, downtown Jerusalem and other places, that's also a provocation because they believe it belongs to them. Okay, now without getting into politics, that's not going to start a war. Right? If you go to certain places that they really believe belongs to them, even though it's a lie, that could start a war. That could cause Jews to die. That is a serious problem. That's a serious problem. Now, some people would say, we have to go up there, we have to go to certain places in order that the Arabs don't take over, and they have to know it belongs to us. Deep down, even though they're the biggest liars in the world, deep down, they know it belongs to us. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. So, some people say we're going to ram it down their throats. They have to understand who's boss. Now, or the other issue is if we don't go into these places, the Arabs will come and take over. Okay, that's an issue. I hear that as an issue. The problem is, for them, it's a religious issue. Now, for a religious issue, they are willing to give up their lives for it, even based on a lie. So therefore, by going up there, what does that do? Right? By going up there, you're causing a provocation. You could put Jewish lives in danger. So many rabbinic authorities would say that is the case. Right? Forget about whether it's permissible to go up there or not. There's a much bigger issue. when Ariel Sharon went up many years ago, before Rosh Hashanah, to go on the Temple Mount. Now again, he was prime minister, I think, at that time. That was a provocation for the Arabs. That was a major provocation, and that started the Second Intifada. Now you can say, come on, they could start any time. They could just start up, trying to kill people, this and that, by us doing anything. But there are certain things you don't start up with. That's one of them. Because again, even though it's based on a lie, which is true, right? The whole thing is based on a lie by them, right? My Rebbe would say, very interesting thing. He would say they're willing to give up their lives for a lie. We have to live our lives like it's the absolute truth. Because what they're doing is based on a lie. Right? So in general, this is a major issue. This is a major philosophical issue. Now, the only issue I have, with the other side, they can believe, there's a big mitzvah to live here and all that. They can believe that as much as they want. I don't necessarily have an issue with it. Right? I don't necessarily have an issue with it. Per se. There's difference of opinion, okay. But the issue is that they go way too far. In other words, they make coming to the land of Israel like the major tenet of Judaism. Like the land of Israel is a major tenet in Judaism. Now you're going to say, doesn't the Torah say, make clear, the promised land, i.e. the land of Israel, belongs to the Jews? Pretty clear. Right? That's why Rashi asked the question at the very beginning of Genesis. Why does the Torah not start with Exodus chapter 12, the first mitzvah, i.e. the mitzvah Rosh Chodesh, right, the new month? Why does it start with creation? Why does it start with the first mitzvah? So Rashi answers, because the nations of the world won't have a claim, because we're going to tell them, God created the heaven and the earth. God giveth the land to whoever he wants. If he wants the nations to have the land, or whatever land, they'll have it. If he doesn't want them to have it, they won't have it. Right? Because the land belongs to God. How do we know? Rashi says, because God created the heaven and the earth. God's in charge. Might makes right over here. Right? If we deserve the land, we'll have it. If we don't deserve the land, we won't have it. Right? You can ask the question. We're not going to go there. But you could ask the question, okay, even if that's true, no Jews can say, but I don't hold by that. I don't hold by what God says. I don't hold by the Bible, this and that. They stole the land. Again, one of the biggest lies in the history of man. We're occupiers. Right? Not going to get into politics, but it's clear. Anyone who's going to claim that, A, we're occupiers, and B, we're creating genocide. Again, these are just propaganda lies. Not true. All right. I'll give one example, one very simple example without getting into politics. I mentioned this many, many times. Mark Twain wrote Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer, known as Samuel Langhorne Clemens, not necessarily a religious person. Came to the land of Israel in the late 1800s. When he came to the land of Israel, who was here? Who was here? There was nobody here. Right? The land was exactly what the prophets say. Demolished. There's nothing growing here, nothing living here. Right? Or meaning nobody living here. We're all the Palestinians. Quote unquote. They weren't here. Mark Twain came in the late 1800s, 1880s, 1890s. Right? Whenever he came, there's nobody here. So what are you talking about? Stolen land. Right? At best, maybe had a bunch of squatters, bunch of, Bedouins, maybe, I don't know. Living in tents, whatever, but there's no entity. There was absolutely zero entity here. There's nothing. Right? This lie has been propagated, throughout the generations. But we bought land, fair and square. Bought it legally. But again, without even going into that. That's a huge lie. Huge lie. Then you would think, when came, This isn't America and the Indians. That America came, manifest destiny, right? Go from New York to California. You know, if you don't believe like us, you don't let us live there, we're going to kill you, right? So the Indians said, yeah, I tried to make a deal with the Indians. Indians weren't interested. They had bows and arrows. And what did the cavalry have? Guns. So what's going to happen if guns against bows and arrows? Guns are going to win. You know, for the sake of colonizing, you know, and taking over America. That's what they did. But they slaughtered everybody in between. Slaughtered all the Indians, right? So, you know, saw a political cartoon once many years ago, right? So someone had said, someone making this cartoon said, before Israel has to give up any land to the Arabs, first of all, America has to give up, you know, California, New Mexico, you know, Texas, the Mexican. Then they have to give up Florida, the Spanish, right? Then they have to give all the land back to the Indians. Once they do all that, we'll talk about peace, right? We'll talk about giving land to the Arabs. Yeah, but let that happen first. You would think when, you know, the Jews came, you have a history of whoever's here, right? Quote unquote, these Arabs that we're, you know, these Jews just came in and slaughtered them. Slaughtered them. Where do you see that in history? Where do you see that in recent history? Right? In the last 100 years more, when Jews were here, right? A handful of Jews were here. Where do you see that? Genocide? Yeah. And now it's, you know, it's going on, you know, down south or whatever, you know, genocide. Okay. You know, civilians should never be killed. I agree. We're not interested in civilians being killed. Okay. But at the end of the day, it's going to happen if you hide behind human shields. Everybody knows this. This is not something that's rocket science. Not at all. Right? Not at all. So, anyway, you know, if a person goes too far, you know, with the Zionistic idea, then the same we can do other things as well. We have a right to do other things based on that. Not true. Right? But again, there are different ways of looking at the land of Israel. That's the point. You know, but if someone's going to cause problems, you know, they're going to want to go on the Temple Mount, do other things, and make it, you know, such a way where they're going to give problems. That's an issue. That 100% is an issue. You know, that's no question. You know, just because we may have a right to do something doesn't mean we should. And if you cause a provocation by going on the Temple Mount, i.e. to pray, not just to go up there, and they're going to make war from it, you're putting people's lives in danger. There's no question. So you don't have a right to do that. Oh, we want to show the land belongs to us. This and that. You're not allowed to put Jewish lives in danger. Period. All right? You're not allowed. Good. So again, you can have a difference of opinion, philosophically speaking. That doesn't make you a heretic. That doesn't make one side being a heretic. Might not be right. Right? They may disagree. They may severely disagree. Okay. But that's not a major tenet here. Right? It's very interesting. We're not going to go there either. It's very interesting. Coming to the land of Israel, you know, why is that one of the Rambam's 13 principles? You know, one of the first principles is God is unique. Sorry, God is absolute. God has no needs. Right? God is unique. Moses is the greatest of all prophets. There's prophecy. God knows the thoughts of man, reward and punishment. These are basic things you have to believe in order to be a Jew. Now, the Rambam doesn't say, very interesting also, the Rambam doesn't say you got to believe in divine providence. It's a good thing to believe it. Okay, but these are things that are crucial. Crucial to be a Jew. A lot of these things don't apply to non-Jews. Okay. Now let's go further. So this idea about living in the land, someone will say, well, the whole Torah, what's it about? It's about serving God. And where's the best place to serve God? The ideal place. That promised land. Very good. You know, but if we don't do what we're supposed to do, as Moses says, you'll get spit out of the land. And that's what happened twice. We had a miracle. We've been back in the land after 2,000 years. Very good. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be here when the Messiah comes. There's a Medrash in Tehillim, book of Psalms, that says that when the Messiah comes, we're going to be in the desert. Some say literally, we're not going to be here. Yeah, others say maybe, it's figurative, whatever, but there's no guarantee. Not hard to imagine, a certain way. Army's very powerful, get nuclear weapons, very hard to imagine, right? But no one would imagine what happened October 7th either. So you don't know, right? You look at Jewish history, you look through the prophets, right, through the judges, and all that. There's a clear curve. What do I mean by a clear curve? The curve is if the Jewish people do the right thing, so then the Jews are successful. They go up like this. If the Jews don't do the right thing, they get punished. So they go down. So it's like a sine curve, up and down. That's what Jewish history is. You listen to God, you do what he says, very good. Jews prosper, they'll be in the land, not a problem. If they don't do what they're supposed to do, there's a problem. There's going to be payback. They can be spit out of the land. No question, they can be spit out of the land. Right? So again, I could have a difference of opinion over here. I could have a major difference of opinion. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily mean, that doesn't mean it's heresy. Right? They say, which side do I choose? That's a good question. Right? So here somebody points out, first of all, you live in the land, you got to be much more careful. Right? So I'll tell you one story my Rebbe's mentioned many times. Right? And that is with Mordechai Pogomansky, a blessed memory. He's one of the Torah giants of the last generation, survived World War II miraculously in many ways. And so my Rebbe wanted to get a blessing from him. He was in France after the war. Went to get a blessing from him before he went to Israel. Before he went to go to the land of Israel. So Mordechai Pogomansky told him, he said, I'm jealous of you. I said, I couldn't live there because of the holiness of the land. Remember, every time you speak Lashon Hara there, every time you do something wrong there, exponentially you get punished. Even you spoke Lashon Hara outside the land is also bad. You're right. A lot of things a person would do inside the land, outside the land, still forbidden. Yeah, the problem is the land has much more holiness than anywhere else, even if God's presence is not necessarily here directly. Right? We don't have a temple. We don't see, miracles happen, this and that. Right? So Mordechai Pogomansky didn't want to give him a blessing. So only until he promised he's going to work very hard, when living in the palace of the king, not to transgress and this and that and take it really seriously, then he was able to give him a blessing, but he wouldn't go. Mordechai Pogomansky was afraid. Simply, he's afraid of the holiness and sitting in the land. Right? That's where it all starts. Yeah, it's not good. Most Jews intermarry and all that, and etc. What's going on, outside the Orthodox community. Okay. But if you look at what is going on, what's going on in the land, I mean, it's pretty bad in many ways. Even though there's a lot of Torah learning here. One of the biggest gay, populations, etc., in Tel Aviv. That's certainly not good. That is certainly not good. A lot of other things going on that aren't good. Yeah, so there's an issue. There's a dichotomy here. Huge dichotomy. There are a lot of people here that hate religion. They hate religion even if they don't know anything. They hate religion. They hate religious Jews. And they'll do whatever they can to make life hard for religious Jews. Right? That's why people say, that you have to vote. You have to have religious parties because it'd be a lot worse if you didn't. True. Right? That's probably the vast majority of rabbinic authorities hold that today. But, there are people that hold. That hold that what? That you can't vote. That's better than being in the opposition. Because, if a person is part of the government, and the government's allowing, desecration of Shabbos, and someone's part of that government, so they're guilty by association. And the whole thing with the train being built, in different places, and government claims it's pikuach nefesh. Like you're saving lives to build it. It's not pikuach nefesh here. But it's going on right underneath their nose. So the question is, if you're a religious party and you know that desecration shop is going on right underneath your nose, how can you be part of it? How in the world can you be part of it? You're getting kickbacks. I don't know. Whatever is going on. Why don't they take down the government because of it? There must be other things going on behind the scenes. But how can you be part of such a thing? It's going on right underneath your nose. So there's an idea guilty by association. Some Rabbi would say, yeah. So you can't have anything to do with it. You got to be in the opposition. Right? You can't sit with these people. But everyone else will say, but if you don't do that and you don't have parties, then that's going to be a lot worse. Right? That would be the majority opinion. That 100% would be the majority opinion. And they'll vote because they have to vote. Because they don't have a choice. They're not doing it ideologically. They're doing it for the benefit of the Jewish people. Right? For the benefit of Eretz Yisrael. Because if it wouldn't be for Orthodox Jews, this place would look like anywhere else. Right? Go down to, go to Tel Aviv, go to Haifa, go to anywhere. Outside main religious areas. Doesn't look like any different than any other place outside of Israel. Except for the fact that people speak Hebrew. That's it. That's the only difference. That's really the only difference. Now, based on that, people will make the mistake, and this is a serious mistake. And people will say, as it's prophesied in the book of Deuteronomy, right? The power of my hands did this. Right? The Jewish people are going to say, they're going to kick God right in the face. They're going to say, what do we, it's not about God, it's about our power. It's about what we've done with the power of our hands. God this, God that. We're the ones fighting in the trenches. But many people in the army, there are many things they can't explain. Many things they can't explain, to their benefit. You look at the 6-Day War. Now, some people say absolute open miracle. Yeah? But everyone has to agree it's an open miracle. You can't just say, well, it's an open miracle, whatever. The last open miracle is what happened by Hanukkah. That's the last revealed miracle that we have. Now, you could say it is pretty miraculous what happened, no question. Yeah? But the army, nobody can explain what happened. Logically. You put it in a simulation over and over again. Yeah. Israel comes out with very, very serious losses. Yeah. Caught off guard. Many things that happened that were above nature. And a lot of the wars are above nature. Right? No question. But, people get caught up in this thing. Well, it's the power of the army. And you got to remember, in the time of King David, there was an army. There was a standing army, but you had people learning. You needed both. The protection of the army and the success of the army is dependent on the fact of people learning for them and praying for them. That's where the success comes. And if you don't have heavenly help, there's no reason for us to be here. Because we look at all these other countries around. And I'm not going to give the Arabs any ideas. And no Arab should be listening right now. I had to give them any ideas. But what would stop them? What would really stop them from all these countries just going on their border and taking all these people, all these armies, and just coming trying to flatten this place like no tomorrow? What's stopping them? Is there anything stopping them? I would say there's only one thing stopping them, God. Because what do they have besides weapons? Sheer numbers. See, that's why this whole thing. I mean, it's not. Some people say can't use this as a claim today, But if you had, more people in the army, easier to defend the country. Now, let's say again, you have Syria come, you have Lebanon come, you have Beirut come. You have Egypt. You have, all these countries surrounding Israel. So let's say they would all come all at once, God forbid. And the odds are like 1,000,000 to 1, right? They outnumber you 1,000,000 to 1. Now, by putting other people in, now it's 1,000,000 to 1.5. Right? The odds don't change. Right? They don't change significantly. Now people say, because of what happened October 7th, we live on reserves, so you need more people, this and that. Okay, so maybe you can't use that argument. That they don't need us. For years they didn't need us, that's for sure. That's for sure. But even without getting into this thorny issue, what's keeping the army together and alive? Yeah. It's the prayers of the Jewish people, no question. And the merit of people learning here in Israel. Because I would have said at the very beginning, and I'm not the only one, a lot of people would have said Israel going in to Gaza is a death trap. It's a death trap. Yeah, probably booby trap half the place. They go in and whatever, they're going to lose thousands of people. Tens of thousands of people, God forbid. And you see, the numbers are very small. I mean, okay, if hundreds of people, anyone that dies is bad, right? No question. But it's not the tens of thousands we would have thought, especially the way they were entrenched. So what's going on to save them? It doesn't make sense logically. Should be a lot more casualties, God forbid. 6-day war, same thing. They were preparing tens of thousands, body bags. They had to defend the land, okay? But they were prepared for huge losses. Huge losses. There were losses, not saying not. Definitely were losses. But how do you explain logically why the numbers were not catastrophic as they should have been? You don't have a way to say, oh, it's power of the army, we did this, we did that. Logically speaking, it should have been a lot worse. And this war also, God forbid, should have been a lot worse. It's bad enough how many people died. Okay? But think about what they were going up against. Miles and kilometers of tunnels underneath to get these, get these terrorists out, and flush them out. I mean, you can only bomb so much. You got to go in there. You got to go on the ground. Everybody and their mother was afraid. That's why they didn't do it for years. Should have done it years ago. Right? This government's to blame. Other governments to blame. Why didn't they do it? That's the only way to stop it. Yeah, the whole place is booby trapped, though. You send people in there, even with the greatest intelligence, it's booby trapped. You're going into a death sentence. It'd be like another Vietnam, God forbid. That's why they didn't go in. Right? Logically, it's why they didn't go in. They didn't want that. But they left it the way it is. It got worse and worse. And this is what happened. This was the end result. Yeah, what happened? October 7th. So, you need both. You need an army. You need people praying for them. Now, let's analyze this for 1 second without getting into politics. People in the army, what are they saying? It's the power of our hands. But see, and this is exactly what's prophesied in the Torah, that the Jewish people are going to say that's the case. But if you look at it logically, a month ago, you had all these missiles coming from Iran and these drones. Now, you had two systems working together for the first time. So they claimed we'll be lucky if we knock out half of them. Half of them. So you tell me the drones were easier. It only took, it took them hours for these drones to get here so you could try and knock them out easily. But all these other missiles are going in 25,000 different directions. 100 missiles are going to hit all of them. Not going to be able to hit all of them. They're going in 1 million different directions. And they're coming in very fast. It's like, imagine, I don't know if they ever played that, that old game Asteroid, right? So So the more lives you have and the harder it gets. At a certain point, you get all these things just like closing in on you. You go into hyperspace, you could die anyway, right? You come out of hyperspace and one of these things hits you, whatever. But in this case, same thing. If they're claiming, at best, they're going to knock out half. At best. And they knocked out all of them. No answer for that. No logical answer for that. And people in the military said, two systems working together for the first time. You're not going to knock them all out. Not possible. Logically. Not possible. Physically. Right? So what do you see? It's above nature. It can't be just the power of your hand over here. You gotta be blind not to see. There are a lot of blind people. There are a lot of blind people. They don't want to see it, but that's not even the point. The prophecy states, as Moses says, they're going to kick God right in the face and say, the power of my hand did this. That's heresy. That's absolute heresy. And someone went to yeshiva with, and, having a discussion, on Shabbos about, why the Alter Orthodox are to the army and this and that. And in the middle of the conversation, he said, listen, if it wasn't me in the army, Syria would come and invade. So I said, no, it only took you 27 minutes to become a heretic. It's like, a heretic? Like, what do you mean? I keep Shabbos, I keep kosher, this, that. Very good. But I said, you believe in the power of Torah? It's like, what do you mean? I said, of course I believe in Torah. What do you think? I say the Shema twice a day. I keep kosher, I learn. I do as much as I can. What do you mean I don't believe? I said, you believe the power of Torah protects. The power of Torah, when a person learns, they say if a person's learning Torah, and keeping Shabbos properly in Israel can stop a secular Jew, in France from desecrating Shabbos. That's the power. Now, whether it happens or not, a different issue, but that's the power of Torah. The power of Torah can save people, can heal people. God can do anything, right? Yeshua Hashem terrified. Salvation of God come in the blink of an eyelash. You gotta believe it. And people have seen it with their own eyes. I'm not talking about previous generations, I'm talking about this generation. But you gotta be able to see it. You have to have the eyes to see. Plenty of people want to say, but it's the power of my hand. It's not the power of your hand. It's not the power of your hand. Right? Famous example. Nachshon Waxman was a soldier that was held captive. The Israelis knew where he was. So they went in to go save him. Everyone was saying, Psalms across, saying to him, day in and day out. And they went in and, bullets flying, grenades going off, this, that. And they killed all the terrorists, but Nachshon Waxman was killed. But not one person in that group who went in to save him got killed. And they asked his father. Porter asked his father, knew what happened to all the Tillim. Right? Only an Israeli could ask this. What happened to all the Tillim? What happened to all the Psalms being said? Now, what would be a person's normal reaction? God said no. That would be a person's normal reaction. God said it wasn't to be. And my son was going to die. Okay. But that wasn't his answer. What was his answer? His answer was everybody in that group said the same thing. We shouldn't be alive today. We went in, couldn't get through the door, had to blast the door again, so they didn't have the element of surprise. Bullets, grenades going off, bullets flying all over the place. We shouldn't be alive today. None of us should be alive today. So Nachshon Waxman's father said, those to him, those Psalms saved them. Saved all these people who were part of this group that went in to save him. It didn't, it wasn't enough to save my son. That's what he said. That's the right answer. I mean, you can also say God said no, okay, right? But the soldiers themselves said the same thing. With everything going on with all these terrorists, they should not be alive today. And they were able to kill all the terrorists, okay, but they themselves should not be alive. So why are they alive? It wasn't the power of their hands. It wasn't their weapons. What kept them alive? How were they able to stay alive? Because God saved them. There's no other thing. You think, well, they got lucky. I don't know. You got grenades going off, explosions, bullets flying all over the place. You can't say it was luck. It's very hard to imagine. 7, 8 people there. Easily bullets could have hit them. Easily they could have got killed by these explosions, who knows what. Easily. Right. What are you going to do in such a case? All of them got lucky? No one got hurt? What are the odds of that in those circumstances? Probably pretty small. I'm not going to say it's 0. Right? It's probably pretty small. But they all come out alive. A lot of these things are like that. A lot of these things are like that. So you can't say it's the power of my hand. If you do, you're an absolute heretic. Or saying so. Because you're taking God right out of the picture, but there are plenty of things that are clear as day. Right? If God wants someone to go, here there are all these missiles flying around up north. God forbid. A lot of them, thank God, just hitting open areas, but causing damage, causing fires, and different things. 2 people were killed in their car by a direct hit. I mean, I can't even imagine. Person in their car, missile coming, that's it. Coming straight for you. And they were killed. God forbid they were killed. God made a point. All these other missiles got deflected. Either they got deflected, right, by Patriot missiles, or they ended up in open areas. Now, they have certain bombs or whatever cause fires now. It started to cause fires in the Galilee. Okay. They got to quickly go put out those fires and this and that. But, even with that, what do you see? These missiles are getting deflected. They're shooting a lot of them. 40, 50 at a time. More. And God forbid you cause a lot more damage. Yeah. God made a point. All the other ones got deflected, hit open areas or whatever, and didn't do anything. Maybe they caused some fires here and there. Okay. Someone got killed directly. There was a drone attack from these Houthis or whatever you call them, from Yemen. Yeah, in a building, Tel Aviv. Hit a building, someone killed directly, a bunch of people injured. Yeah. Why did it happen? Every missile, every bullet has its mark, right? Will hit its mark if it's, whatever it's supposed to hit. As my Rebbe's Rebbe Moshe Schneider said, every bullet has its place. Now, again, none of these things should happen. I mean, especially with these Houthis, for goodness sakes. So it's not like they're a huge army or anything else, but still, causing problems. Okay, but again, person's going to go however they're going to go. God's making a point here. I can make 50 missiles hit nothing. I can make 100 missiles hit nothing, 1,000 missiles hit nothing. But if you're still not getting the point, I have to hit something. I have to make a point here. So here's a drone. There's an explosion. Someone's killed by the explosion. People injured in a building. Now, I would say, again, my opinion for what it's worth, but I would say clear as day. these missiles, even from the south, there are not too many being shot from the south because they cleared them all out, most of them. But these missiles could be doing a lot more damage. A lot more damage. God forbid. And you see, they don't. That is a huge miracle. I don't see how else you explain it. Again, I always say it's one of two things. It's either get the stupidest people shooting him. That's a possibility. Right? That for sure is a possibility. Or you tell me there's something else going on. Something supernatural. Because you can't have so many missiles going on. But, I made a bar mitzvah Wednesday night for my youngest son. Most people know. And my Rebbe's son came. He had to switch his schedule because normally goes up north. Usually on Wednesdays, but he went up on Tuesday. He told me he was up there on Tuesday and 40 missiles came. He happened to be up there, right? And he goes to a lot of the grave sites up there of great rabbis, whatever. He goes there every week. So he told me when he came, he said, you should know. He said, it's a good thing I'm hard of hearing. I don't hear so well. He said, but all these booms going on, where he was in Sfaz. But they're all deflected, right? See what they do, they're all deflected. They're like more than 40 that happened. I mean, they have thousands, tens of thousands, of these missiles. It's a lot harder to deal with them because they're well underground, not like Hamas. It's a much more dangerous situation up north. What could be? God forbid. But, he said this like, this is what happened. He was up there, heard all these booms and different things, right? But like, that doesn't really phase him because it doesn't hear so well, whatever. But that was it. This is what almost seems to be expected. These things happen. They don't cause so much damage. They should be doing a lot worse. A heck of a lot worse if these things are so accurate, whatever. Should be doing, and you get tens of thousands of people not living there now because it's dangerous. Okay. It's another issue, whatever. Not going to go there. What the government should do. How can you have 80,000 people out of work, living in hotels, center of the country because of what's going on? That's a whole another issue. But the point is, as we've seen, that it's uncanny. It shouldn't happen, right? That is above nature. But people can say, we got Patriot missiles, we're knocking them down, spending all kinds of money to do it. Very good, yeah, but it's above nature. You want to see it, you'll see it. If you don't want to see it, you won't see it, right? But if a person's going to say, and again, living in the land, not living in the land, okay. Yeah, you're going to have a disagreement, fine. But you want to say it's the power of my hand and whatever, we're doing and whatever the army's doing and that, that's going to save us, that's a problem. That's a problem. Because you're saying God's not in charge. You're saying, it's the power of my hand, but there's so many things, even in the army itself, so many things that they've seen you can't explain naturally. It's impossible. Right? We gave that example, 300 missiles and drones. The odds of them hitting nothing, and being blown up, all of them going in 50,000 different directions is zero. Right? You can tell me some of them are gonna get in, some of them are gonna hit something. All of them hit nothing, get knocked out before. Pretty amazing. Yeah, that's where the problem is. Right? And if someone's gonna say, it's the army and it's this and it's that, that's heresy. That's a different issue. That is a totally different issue. But as we said before, if it's about living in the land, not living in the land, okay, you have who to, rely on. Doesn't make you a heretic. Question is, if a person lives in the land, or say you should live in the land, and everything's involved about living in the land, a person's a real true Zionist, okay. But there's 613 commandments. It's not the only commandment in the world. Right? Even though we are close to the end of days, I don't think anyone disagrees. We are close to the end of days. Very good. Yeah. But it's not the only mitzvah that exists in the Torah. What about Shabbos? What about learning Torah? Is learning Torah more important than anything else? As Zionistic rabbi once told me, that you still have an obligation to do the army, right? Regardless if, you're learning Torah. I said, listen, I have enough money to sit and learn for years. Not going to be a problem. I should stop learning Torah to do the army. You want to tell me doing, serving the army is more important than learning Torah? When he felt that, it's a big mitzvah. Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. Remember, there's nothing more important than learning Torah. Nothing. Nothing more important. Now, if we had prophets, we had an Urim V'Tumim, and they would say, listen, everyone has to go out to war. Okay. Right? That I would hear. That's what we call Mechemes Mitzvah. That's a mitzvah to go to war. Okay? No question. Say if a person's first married, within the first year of his marriage, got to go out, got to go fight. Now, people would say, well, the majority of people in the army today here, it is a reservist, so you need more reservists. Yeah. So, isn't that a war? Aren't we, we're at war, so everyone has to fight. First of all, prophets, they tell us that. Second of all, okay, you need reservists. Very good. But tell me it's a mitzvah and everyone has to stop learning to do it. If that would be the case, let's say, right? If it would be a Mechemes mitzvah, God's going to take care of everyone. Now, that's not the case. You don't have Torah protecting you. You need Torah to protect. Not about the power of our arms. Again, we're outnumbered. We're outnumbered, even if this enemy right now, is not a huge number. What you're dealing with very well could be the future. But still, how many people, how many fighters they have in Hezbollah? 50,000, 30,000. That's something much more potent. They got like 100,000 missiles. That's a lot more potent. Of course, you have other armies come in, God forbid. That's a whole powder keg here. We're living by the grace of God here. Not the power, it doesn't matter about nuclear weapons or anything else. Power of God. It's God's grace that he lets us stay here. There's no reason why the land of Israel should exist today. Or let's say better, why this quote-unquote state of Israel should exist. Logically. Right? Not the power of our arms. Right? But when a person says now that this is the point, you want to agree to disagree. Whether you have a mitzvah to live in the land, not live in the land, okay. But when you take that too far, and you're going to say not only they're a mitzvah, but you got to do the army, and that's the biggest mitzvah in the world. There's no other greater mitzvah than that. And a religion, a Zionist rabbi can say, that's the biggest mitzvah. It's more important than learning Torah. Let me tell you something. It's not more important than learning Torah. No one is going to say it's more important than learning Torah unless we have prophets, we have an Urim V'Tumim that says you have to stop learning. Everyone has to go out and fight. That's not the case. We don't have that tonight. That's not the case. Right? We might be at war, okay? But for someone to say, for somebody to say, a rabbi or not, to say that that's more important than learning Torah, that 100% is heresy. It's heresy. Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. There's nothing ever more important than learning Torah. There are times you have to shut the Gemara. There are times you stop learning, right? Let's say you found a dead body, you got to bury it. No one else to bury it. You got to stop learning. Make a bride and groom happy. You have to stop learning. Certain things you have to stop learning for. Got to go to war. You got to stop learning. Okay. But to say, certainly when you're not at war, that there's a mitzvah to do this, and that takes precedent over Torah, that's a problem. That's a serious problem. Yeah. A lot of questions here. Let's deal with them. Somebody mentions trying to discern who to hold as an authority. Yeah, that's a good question. Because somebody claim to be Jewish might infer something. Yeah, how can we not be deceived? So there is a question. That's a good question. Who and we've spoken about this quite a bit, who can you trust? Are there rabbis out there that you can trust? And for what can you trust them with? Right? For what can you trust them with? What questions can you ask them? Are they reliable? Right? So I would say, just like, anyone checking me out or anyone else out, you gotta see, what do people say? Who's the Rebbe? Who do they listen to? Who do they go to when they have questions? Yeah, these are criteria. And you have to know what level of knowledge they have. There are people out there, and I mentioned this before, that, out there doing outreach, which I don't have a problem with, but people doing outreach don't necessarily have world-class knowledge. Now, they could know what they're talking about. There could be plenty of things they know what they're talking about. Okay. But I would say you got to be careful. You got to be careful because not everyone's well versed. People have to know the Mishna Pirke Avos says we'll get there one day. Maybe when I'm about 102. Then you have to know your place. Right? A person has to know when it's above them. When something comes to them, they can't answer. Or they shouldn't answer. Right? Let's say, I'll give an example. Someone got rabbinic ordination and the laws of Shabbos. Yeah. Can they answer questions about kashrus? Probably shouldn't. Why? Because they don't have that knowledge. They were never tested on that knowledge. What if something they know? They know in that case, could they answer it? They could. It's very rare to find someone who has halachic knowledge, i.e., knowledge in Jewish law, and have a wide range of knowledge in other things also. It's very rare to see both. Either someone, their main focus is their main focus is Jewish law. Very good. Right? Very good. Does that make them well-rounded in other things in Judaism also? It depends on what they know also. Maybe someone has a certain level of knowledge in the laws of Shabbos, but other things they're weak on. Okay. Yeah. I wouldn't ask them that unless it's something obvious. Yeah. If it's something obvious, anyone can answer by looking it up. Something more complex. Yeah. Then you have to ask people who are in the know. So yeah, it's a hard question. It's a hard question. Now, if a person, let's say, would get caught saying something that wasn't true, by their own lack of knowledge. Now, you could take that and say, well, they made a mistake in this, could have made a mistake in 10 other things also. Could be. But see, people are human, they can make mistakes. Let's say they made a mistake in something. Or someone says, well, I don't like their answer for this. Right? Or I don't like their answer for that. Okay, so what? That doesn't resonate with me. Okay. So what? Doesn't mean it's not true. That people take me to task on all kinds of things doesn't mean it's not true. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about. They don't like what I said about this. Okay. I mentioned it on Thursday, my Q&A. Right? Colorful language, I call it Arabs. Yeah, okay. Yeah. People can take offense to that and say, oh, you shouldn't say that. It's generalization. Not all Arabs are bad. Right. Right. That's true, but that's not what I was talking about. Right? That is not what I was talking about. Terrorists, I was talking about. People stab people in the back all the time. That happens in Israel. That's what I was talking about. Someone who wants to live in peace. Do I have a problem with that? No. I don't have a problem with it. They want to live in peace. Good. I have no issue with that. Any non-Jews want to live in peace. Right? Any non-Jews are anti-Semites. You call them out. That they're anti-Semites. And they're maggots. That's what they are. They're maggots. They're thugs. That's what they are. The Arabs out there want to kill Jews. That's what they are. Not saying every single one of them. There might be peaceful Arabs out there. Okay. There might be peaceful Muslims out there. Okay. Hard to imagine, but it could be. So them I'm not talking about. Them I won't classify in that category. But anybody else, they want to see death to the Jews. Maim them and kill them and whatever. I got a problem with that. So, and anti-Semite, same thing. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. They're maggots. That's what they are. That's exactly what they are. People don't like the terminology. Okay. Doesn't mean it's not true. These terrorists and whatever, they're less than human, these people. Look what happened on October 7th. That's who they are. The best of them, that's who they are. Now, are some of them going to be peaceful and loving? Yes. For the vast majority, I don't think so. Because they're all indoctrinated. You have a whole generation being indoctrinated. So the best of them no different. They're not different. And if you tell me there are some that are peaceful and you can't make a generalization, maybe. But you have a whole generation indoctrinated. It's very hard to say that. And if there are people that don't hate the Jewish people, they happen to be Muslim, okay. So I'm not talking about them. Right? So they want to live in peace. I also want to live in peace. I don't have a problem with that. Yeah. What do you do with the statement? Like, just take that one step further. What do you do with the statement that the Torah says that when it talks about Yishmael in Genesis, it says his hand is in everyone and everyone's hand is in his. Now, what does that say about Islam? Sorry, what does that say about Yishmael? In all his descendants. It's a character trait, the Torah says. See, person's going to have a problem with this statement also. Yeah. What's the character trait of anyone who comes from Yishmael? They're thieves. That's the character trait. Right? Anyone comes from Esav, Edom, they live by the sword. Yeah. Now, does it mean, everyone in the Western world is going to carry guns and kill people? No, doesn't mean that. Got plenty of peace-loving people. Very good. Right? But that's part of who they are. Right? That's part of who they are. A lot of the war has been started by Europe. Where do they come from? Edom. They're warmongers. That's what they are. Now, it doesn't mean, every year and this and that, every country's going to be like that. The whole thing's going to be like that. But you see from history. Very bloody. Very bloody all over Europe. I'm not even talking about Jewish blood. Countries being overrun, taken over, coups, this, that. That's who they are. That's part of their DNA. Right? So when the Torah tells you part of Yishmael's DNA is he's a thief, that's part of his DNA. Now you can say, wow, that's discriminatory against Yishmael. Very good. And that's saying they're all thieves. Let me tell you what goes on in the land of Israel. Anytime a car is stolen or broken into, 99% of the time it's done by an Arab. I'm not saying it can't be done by Jews. Get Jewish thieves also. But everybody knows that car is stolen, probably in some chop shop. You'll never get it back. It's gone. Right? And all the parts probably gone, totally stripped. That's usually the mentality. Yeah. You want to say it's a racist Israeli mentality? You can say what you want. There's a reality. Yeah. In a Jewish neighborhood, a Jew's going to steal from one another? No. Can you have bad elements among Jews? Yes. Can you have Jewish thieves? Yes. But if this is what their nature is, you say, oh, look what the Torah says. Torah is totally discriminatory according, against Yishmael, right? The Muslims very upset what the Torah says about Yishmael. Very good. Make him look bad. Very good. The Torah says that's who he is. Right? That's part of his DNA. Now, based on that, does that mean even if it's part of your DNA, you have to act on it? No. Is it going to be harder for you to go against it? Yes. That doesn't mean you have to act on it. We all have, we're all product of DNA. Good things, bad things, whatever. And even if they're bad things, doesn't mean you have to act on it. So you say, you have a better disposition towards it. Very good. And even if you do, who says you have to do it? You're more susceptible to it. Okay. Let's see, this is an issue. Right? So now, someone's going to pin me down and say, do you believe 100% every single Muslim and every single Arab out there steals? No, you're not going to say everybody. You're not going to say everybody, right? But it's part of their nature. That's part of their nature. They got sticky fingers. Now, can someone overcome that? Can they, even though it's part of their DNA, they can overcome it. Work hard to overcome it. But they have a certain disposition. Yeah. Edom has a certain disposition. All of them for all generations. That's why Edom does not want to accept the Torah, the Gemara says. Right? Avodah 2b to 3a. Because God says, you want the Torah? They say, what's written in it? It says, don't kill. What do you mean? It says, I'm going to live by the sword. So not interested, right? By Yishmael, it says, they say, what's written in it? It says, don't steal. It says, what do you mean? That's what we do, right? It says, your hand is hand, their hand is hand in everyone. So all the nations, for different reasons, reject the Torah. They come to the Jewish people. You want the Torah? They say, sure. You want to know what's written in it? They say, Na'aseh v'nishma. We'll do them, we'll hear. We don't care what's written in it. We're going to do it anyway. But that's who these people are, for better or for worse. That doesn't mean they have to act on it. Right? I'm not saying that, but they have a certain disposition. So it makes it harder. Right? But again, even if someone say, oh, that's discriminatory, I can't believe that's what it means. That, blah, blah, blah. Right? So what? Yeah. Does that mean they can't overcome it? No, it doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean that. So the reality is that, this is what people are for all generations. That's what's going to be part of their DNA. Yeah. So anyone who lives in Israel, they know this. By cars being stolen is a good example. Majority cases, cars being stolen are stolen by Arabs. This is just a known fact. Right? They're not something, I'm pulling out of my elbow and I'm pulling out of other places. These are facts. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you? Oh, just generalization about Arabs. These are the facts. I'm making this up. So they have more of a disposition than others to stealing. Now, does that mean no Jews ever steal? No, we're not saying that. Right? So in any case, the person has to be very careful, which we mentioned many times. Who are you going to listen to? Who are you going to go to get advice from? Right? The Gemara in Chagiga says, you want to learn from someone, they have to be like, in your eyes, like an angel. Check out their criteria. How many years they learned, who they learned by, who they ask their questions to. Right? These are important criteria. Right now, it can be very confusing. Yeah. Yeah, so it's always good, get other opinions. Ask people. It is a hard thing. See, I've been biased because the last 20 years, 27 years, I've been close to someone I could ask him anything, about anything. Kashrus, prayer, blessings, anything about anything. Yeah, it's very rare to find someone that kind of knowledge. Very, very rare. So yeah, it's a hard thing. I would agree. It's a hard thing. Doesn't mean it can't happen. Right? Doesn't mean a person can't find someone who they feel comfortable with or knows where they're coming from, can answer their questions. Again, people might not like some answers that they get, but that doesn't mean that the person doesn't know what they're talking about. They just don't like the answer. Okay? Yeah. I can tell you, some things my Rebbe said that people didn't like it. Okay? They don't have to follow what he said. I have an obligation to follow what he says. He tells me do this, do that, whatever. Okay? That made me come smelling like a rose? No. If other people say different things about him in a negative way, that's fine. They can say whatever they want, right? He is the Torah giant of the generation. So they don't like him. They don't like things that he says about certain things. Okay. They don't have to listen to him. They don't have to listen to him. I've been close to him more than 27 years. Right? So yeah, is it easy to find someone who's going to answer all your questions and know where you're coming from and, whatever? I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. But it's like anything else. Person buys a car. Yeah, you want to make sure it doesn't. You don't buy a lemon. You want to make sure the car is going to last. The guarantee is not a guarantee, right? But anything you do in this world, the shidduch, it's a match, right? I'm just talking about a spouse, right? I'm talking about a person buys a car. You buy anything, right? It could be good, it could be bad, right? And this is the same thing. Person wants to learn by someone. Could be a good match, could be a bad match. Depends, right? Depends on a lot of different factors. Somebody asks, 2/3 of the landmass actually desert, right? That is true, right? That is true, right? Southern Point Eilat, okay, yeah. What spiritual lesson can we learn from this? That is empty. Well, you're living in a desert. Why ask like this? Why was the Torah given a desert? Torah should have given a more populated area. Right? Just like desert's ownerless, Torah is also ownerless, meaning everyone can acquire Torah for themselves. Right? But I would say tongue in cheek. I was just out a couple weeks ago in near Jericho. Went to a wedding, a close friend of mine. And I was telling someone that people complain, oh, when the Messiah comes, when the Messiah comes, are people going to say, where are you going to put all the Jews? From all over, whoever's going to survive. I was like, well, I was putting place in the desert to go, right? From Jericho further, you want to go down south, it's empty, totally empty, right? Plenty of places to go. It might not be, it might be very hot there and other things, but it's plenty of room. Plenty of room, put tens of thousands of people, it's not a problem, right? You want to, so you have different, areas. You have areas, up north that can get colder, right? You got more water up there. You need water up there. You need rain up there, etc. Why did God make the landmass the way He did? I don't know. It's a good question. Why do you leave so much open area? Maybe to allow people to come back and live there. But obviously God, gave us this land, for us. So whether it's it's part of the desert and a lot of people don't live there. Why did He give it? Don't know. But that, any part of that land, maybe outside of Eilat, which is a good question, if that's part of the land of Israel or not, which, is open to debates. There'll be other parts of the land of Israel that we don't have right now that will be. It'll be part of greater Israel. But, why specifically gave these areas that are empty? I don't know. Yeah, that I just answered. Do I believe that both observant Jews and non-Jews are spiritually connected? Yeah, they are connected. Because non-Jews want to do what God says, right? And they want to go in the same way. They're connected in another way, and that is, I would say, anyone who wants to convert or ends up converting, they have to have a Jewish soul. There's no question they have to have a Jewish soul. Otherwise, there'd be no reason why they would keep any. They would have any interest in keeping Torah mitzvahs at all, because it doesn't make sense. Most of the Torah doesn't make sense logically. So I would say, based on that, there's a, there is a direct connection to that, because, that soul's on Mount Sinai. The question how that soul becomes non-Jewish, how you have a Jewish soul becomes a non-Jewish soul, and they have to go through conversion. So good. That's a good Kabbalistic question. But in general, there is that direct connection, because they both want to go in the same way. They want to go in the same path, even if they didn't start out the same. But yeah, they can still be on the same, similar spiritual journey, even though, how they're going to do it and what they're going to do is going to be different for sure, right? But in general, they definitely could be, part of the same thing. I don't think there's any question. I don't think there's any question, because any non-Jew is going to want to come to Torah mitzvahs, not just because they came out of Christianity and they saw contradictions and different things. That's true, right? That may be very true. Most people I deal with, but I would say that if they're coming to Torah mitzvahs, if they didn't have that spark of being a Jewish soul, it wouldn't make sense logically, right? So you have that in common as well. Someone here said, Mark Twain said, the things you read in the Bible ain't exactly. So you're right. You're right. I didn't say he was a believer. by any stretch. But he did say, I mean, double check that, but he definitely said, he definitely said that what the Bible says is what he saw. Now, he can deny other things in the Bible, okay? He definitely could deny other things. But when you have somebody like that telling you, that whether he believes in the Bible or not in other ways doesn't really matter. But if he's saying, according to the prophets, this is what the prophet said, and this is what he saw, even if he's going to say, well, you don't believe what the prophets say, you don't have to believe in, in any of this. But what is he telling you? Right? Analyze what he's telling you. He's telling you what he saw is what they say. Even if he's going to say, oh, but I don't believe the prophets, right? Doesn't matter. He's saying that's what happened. Regardless of whether he believes in it, doesn't have to believe in it. They can say, oh, it's a bunch of crock, it's a bunch of bull. Okay, he could say that. He could say that, but he's telling you this is what he saw. What he saw would seem exactly what the Bible says. He didn't have to believe in the Bible, right? But he's telling you that's what he saw, right? That was my point. Ordering Christian Bible, okay, yeah. But again, what's part of the Christian Bible? It's part of the Torah and Tanakh, right? It's part of the prophets. So he's saying from that. He's not saying from the Christian Bible. Yeah, he's not saying, oh, what JC said or whatever. He's talking about the prophets, legitimate prophets, right? That was the point. So I'm the following servant observation. Land in the Torah is a symbol, place that God gives you to serve him. Is that accurate? No. God, the best place to serve God is in the land of Israel, right? That I don't think anyone should disagree, because that's what the Torah says. Can a person serve God outside the land of Israel? Yeah. So land, the land itself is only holy because God's presence is there. But if God's presence isn't there and there's destruction, right, of the temple, and we have to rebuild the temple and all that, so what is the purpose of the land then? Right, so the land is holy in either case. The whole discussion, right? The whole discussion whether the land is holy or not, even if God's presence isn't here, right? So meaning even if the temple isn't here, right? Now, if I don't have the temple, can I serve God without the temple? Yes. How can I serve God without the temple? Prayer. Now, if it's only based on the land, that would mean if I'm outside the land of Israel, I can't pray. It's not true. Right? That land is a place God gives you to serve him. You can serve him anywhere. Doesn't mean in the land. The best place to serve him, yes, is in the land of Israel. No question. That's no discussion. But that doesn't mean you can't serve him outside the land. That you would tell me, well, the land is the only place to serve him. It's not true. That's not true. If that would be true, then what would be the point of serving him outside of Israel? There wouldn't be any point. Right? That's what I would say. Another observation, or reading the Torah, was the land of flowing milk and honey. Okay. Milk refers to the land of shepherds. Yeah, it refers to the land of the farmer. Yeah, okay. Won't necessarily disagree with that. The farmer can live in harmony together. Right? What's the purpose here? Right? What's the purpose here? Right? One thing is fertility of the land. Yeah. That's one thing. That's one thing it shows. Right? You're talking about fruit trees, right? Fruit trees can grow in a lot of different places. Right? But that's only again when the land is fertile. Right? So when the land of milk and honey means it's fertile. Right? Right? That's one thing. Milk also, what does it represent? Medrash says milk represents taste. richness of taste. What does honey represent? Sweetness. And interesting, honey's kosher, even though it's produced by a non-kosher insect, right? Very interesting. Milk is kosher, comes from a cow, whereas meat may not be eaten together with milk, right? Interesting thing also. So that's one way. That's one way to look at it. Right. So it's usually looked at, by what we'd call, again, fertility. Fertility is compared to, let's say, other places, let's say like the land of Egypt, or something like that. Prophet Isaiah says, chapter 7, verse 22, reverts to its natural state following simultaneous invasions from the north and south. Right? It could be talking about the condition of the land. Also, honey is one of the list of 7 species which the land is praised, right? As well. It can be date honey or any fruit extract, so to speak. I mean, that's what I say about that. So I guess the question is, a land where both the shepherd and the farmer can live in harmony. I don't know. I don't know if you have to go that deep. Look at it that way. Simple explanation is, as we said, it refers to the fertility of the land. When the Jews are in the land, it'll be fertile. It'll be flowing with milk and honey. When Jews aren't in the land, that's what we've seen for thousands of years. Exactly what Mark Twain said. It was empty. It was desolate. It was destroyed. Yeah, so what happened to the land of milk and honey? What happened to all the fertility? Because the Jews weren't there. All right, that's simple explanation. I would say, someone asked, Pastor, don't understand. Why would it be just for God to command Joshua and the Israelites to kill the Canaanites? Why would God want to kill anybody? Because they're evil. They deserve to be wiped out. Yeah. Especially since God commanded not to murder. Yeah. God says you're not allowed to murder for no reason. Right? Self-defense, not murder. Right? But if God says don't murder, you're not allowed to kill. Let me ask the question, can that be overridden? Can God override what he said? You say you can't contradict what he said. Very good. Now, when it says don't kill, did God give us any definitions? God didn't give us any definitions. So when God says don't kill, but then he goes in other places and says, I want you to wipe these people out, obviously there's a reason they should be wiped out. It's not a contradiction. Right? That's not a contradiction. Why? Because in general, you're not allowed to kill. Right? A person will say, well, person was dying anyway. I want to put them out of my misery, so to speak. Euthanasia, that's not murder, right? That's mercy. No, murder is murder. What about war? God says don't kill. You allowed to go to war? Torah says I'm allowed to go to war against our enemy. So you can ask that question also. Why isn't that a contradiction? Because it's another command. Another command to go to war. You're not allowed to murder. Yeah. So if you go to war, what is war all about? Killing people or stopping them from killing you. Either way. Wouldn't it be better if you had to go to war, you didn't have to kill people? Yes. If that's the only way to do it, then you kill people. And it's Talmudic dictum, you kill someone before they kill you. If you know someone's coming to kill you, you can stop them and kill them. You can say that's also a contradiction, but it's not true. Right? There are times you will have to kill. God giving a command by saying we're going to wipe this group out. He says they're evil. Sodom, we're evil. Canaanites were evil. All the 7 nations were evil. God said wipe them out. That's murder. But God said to do it. Why did he say do it? Because he knew better. He knows these people are bad. That's the only way to get rid of them. You have to kill them. That's not a contradiction. Don't murder. There's a greater good over here, getting rid of evil. And if you get rid of evil without murdering people, isn't that better? Yes. And if there isn't a way, and that's how we would get rid of them, so that's what you do. That's not a contradiction, right? That wouldn't be a contradiction. For that. Someone says to come across someone online with a video or some essay or book. So again, right? Should a person just trust anyone out there, selling their wares in Torah? No. Check them out first. Yeah, they might have the title of rabbi. It doesn't mean a whole lot. Today, even though I think people give it a lot more credit than they do. But they have to have other knowledge as well. But the issue is, check it out, get reviews. Is it valid? We have to see. Right? That's the only way to do it. Ask people in the know. Is this a good thing to listen to or not a good thing to listen to? Right? Should I be part of this group or not part of this group? So ask people. That's what you have to do. You have to ask people, ascertain, whether it's a good thing to do or not. Someone here mentioned that several people tell them when they're studying, get me to stop studying, ignore them. Right? There are people you shouldn't listen to. Period. You just shouldn't listen. Right? They're gonna tell you go against Torah mitzvah, you don't listen to them. Doesn't matter. They're friends for a long time, this, that, maybe they mean well, whatever. Right? You're gonna have to cut off certain relationships because nothing more important than learning Torah. Someone's gonna tell you that. Not to do it or go back to being a Christian and doing this, you don't listen to them. Right? You shouldn't listen to them. Even if it makes problems. God comes first. Truth comes first. And a lot of times, family and friends, we mentioned many times that family and friends are going to go by the wayside. That's just the way it's going to be. All right? That's the way it's going to be. Someone says this is a heresy for people to go against great rabbis and recognize chief rabbinic authorities. Now, chief rabbis here, they're political figures, more or less. Right? Doesn't necessarily mean they're heretics. I mean, they could be. Very well could be. But, there are chief rabbis in other places that, God should have mercy on them. Have mercy on us. But, if you have great rabbis of generation, aren't they going to be probably greater than political appointments? Yeah. And if it's a choice of, one of the great rabbis of generation or a political appointment, who are you going to listen to first? Right. You're going to listen to one of the great rabbis. Now, someone's going to say, isn't it heresy? Right? To go against, the great rabbis? Yeah. Right? In many ways. I would say, though, if what they say is a difference of opinion, so if you hold according to another opinion, it's not heresy. Right? Definitely not a heresy. What do you do? Let's say in a rabbinical court, you got one rabbi is greater than all the other two. He says one thing and two say against him, but he's greater. Who do you listen to? You go according to the majority. Right? Exodus chapter 25, verse 2. Go according to the majority. But again, in this case, if it's clear these rabbis are, Torah giants of generation, right? And someone say, well, you should listen to these lower rabbis and not listen to them. If there's a difference of opinion, okay. There's a difference of opinion. You have who to rely on. But in general, if you were to ask me, can you go according to, let's say, someone's a chief rabbi against, the great rabbis, I would say it depends on what. If someone, is a greater rabbi, doesn't necessarily mean what they're saying is right. 100%. Right? You can have people disagree. You have that all the time. People disagree. Even people of, let's say, lesser knowledge. It doesn't make you a heretic. For disagreeing. Necessarily, if you have what to back it up. If you don't have what to back it up, different issue. But I wouldn't necessarily in every case say it's heresy. Could be in some cases it would be, but I wouldn't say in every case like that. What Gedolim said it's safe. What's the Book of Wars? I don't know. We don't have it. There was a Book of Wars that was written. We don't have it today. It got lost. It's books of the wars from God. We don't have it. Right? And the book talked about wars in the past. More than that, I can't tell you what it is. We don't have it. You mentioned bees are non-kosher, right? Are there any other kosher insects? Or the only kosher insects that we have are locusts. Or sorry, grasshoppers. Grasshoppers. Now, there are people, there are Sephardic people who have a tradition on which grasshoppers are kosher to eat. If you're Ashkenazic, we don't have a tradition, so we don't eat them. We don't eat grasshoppers. We don't have a tradition on it. By Sephardic Jews, they claim to have a tradition on it. So if they would find, according to their tradition, a grasshopper, they wanted to eat it, they could eat it. Right? High in protein. I don't know. They could eat it. Right? But Ashkenazim do not have a Ashkenazim do not have a tradition on grasshoppers, but basically every other insect would be forbidden. You're talking about that. Don't ask during COVID. Some people were against Rishon LeZion and about getting the COVID shot. So that I'm not even going to go into because that was a whole controversy in and of itself. Right? There were some people that would tell people privately, but not in public, because they want to get in trouble for, their group representing their group or whatever. Getting the COVID shot's a whole, it's a whole other thing. Yeah, some people say, they're totally misled by it, misled by what people said, by what doctors said, different things. That's a whole different thing. If you're talking about right, I'll give one example. Chief Rabbinate, based on the Psag of Rav Yosef, said that the Falish Moor, the what do you call it, the Jews from Ethiopia, based on Rav Yosef's Psag, and what he held that they were Jews, they didn't have to undergo conversion. Yeah, and the Chief Rabbinate went with what he said. And according to Chief Rabbinate, they don't have to undergo conversion. Just about everybody else, just about every other rabbinic authority in the world, the great rabbis of the generation disagree. Totally disagree. Yeah. That they have to go into conversion because, they didn't have certain mitzvahs they didn't have, and there was a whole problem of might be mamzerim because they didn't have proper divorce and marriage and laws and all that. So, without even going into that topic, I'll just mention that the Chief Rabbinate held that was the case, you didn't have to convert them. Everybody else disagreed. Now, since everyone else disagreed, I'm not, coming to say Rav Yosef is anyone small by any stretch. He was one of the Torah giants in the last generation, according to everybody. No question. No question about it. But everyone else disagreed. Yeah. So in that case, they should be converted. Anyone of Ethiopian descent should be converted. Or go through a stringent conversion, whatever. But they for sure should be converted. The Chief Rabbinate held that you don't have to, according to this psak from Rav Yosef. Okay. But everyone else disagreed. So yeah, this thing with COVID again, that's a whole different thing. I think there's a lot of misinformation, tremendous amount of misinformation, out there. And a lot of people were scared to boot, and but in general, a lot of people came out and said, yeah, you should get it. A lot of people said you shouldn't get it. So which side you hold on? Good question. Yeah, there have been problems with people who took it. Okay. People say, well, anyone who took it, 2 years to find out what's going to be, because everyone's going to be dead anyway, whoever took it. It's going to kill their DNA. Okay. Well, that didn't seem to happen. Right. So that's the whole thing. That's a whole different thing. And I think there's just that whole topic, just a lot of misinformation. A lot of misinformation. What did they base their information on? Where they get their information from? It's a whole, I think I'm not using that as a test case. Right. If you tell me they disagree in something, the laws of Shabbos, something in kashrut, whatever, okay, there's a litmus test, right? There's serious information out there. This was a whole hodgepodge. Yeah. Finally, at least the media's coming around saying it wasn't a normal virus. and it was baked up in China. Yeah, it was used like as a biological weapon. Finally, they're coming out to the truth. That's been out, it should have been out there a long time ago, but they hid it. So there's a lot of misinformation. So I'm not really losing any sleep over what people went against great rabbis and they have like the chief rabbinate or whatever. I just think there's a lot of misinformation, right? So based on that, who's right in such a case? It's based on a lot of different things. Based on a lot of different things, which I think it just weren't clear. But there were plenty of rabbis came out and said should take it. I don't think they should take it based on the information that they had. But look what it did. Look what it did. In certain cases, okay, cause blood clots, people have heart attacks, different things. It wasn't the majority by any stretch. But there were serious cases. People died from it. Also, a lot of things got hush hushed, but whatever. So I'm not. I'm not going in. I'm not going into that. Grasshoppers, true, they're cut. It doesn't have to be. Grasshoppers are an animal. It's an insect. All insects, all animals, they have to have split hooves and chew their cud. Grasshopper doesn't have split hooves or chew its cud. Right? Basically, the Torah says all insects are forbidden except for grasshoppers. Yeah, so it had nothing to do with chewing its cud or not. It's a question of a certain species of grasshoppers you'd be allowed to eat. Problem is, we lost that tradition, except if you're Sephardic or Persian. They have such a tradition. We don't have a tradition. Ashkenazim don't have a tradition. It has nothing to do with chewing its cud, right? Or having split hooves because they don't, right? All insects should be forbidden except for grasshoppers. Someone here said I don't think it's directive to talk about COVID. All right, that's another issue. All right, again, I'm not going into that. Is an adult Jew without bris milah allowed to keep all mitzvahs? If an adult Jew did not get circumcision, yeah. So even if they're born to a Jewish mother, they're Jewish. They're Jewish. So if they didn't do it, they transgress. If the parents don't do it, rabbinical court should do it. If rabbinical court doesn't do it, then the person has to have it done themselves. So they transgress that mitzvah every single day. They don't do it, but they can have a portion of other mitzvahs. Doesn't disqualify them. Doesn't disqualify them from other mitzvahs. But obviously it should be done. They can be called to Torah and other things, yeah, but it should be done. No question. They're gonna have a lot more difficulty learning Torah, and other things because there's a barrier. They're not taking off that foreskin is a barrier. There's a barrier to learning Torah. So there were many cases where people didn't have circumcision, even though they were Jewish, people were very bright and could learn Torah. It just didn't go in. And so what happened? They said, did you ever have bris milah? When they found out they didn't have circumcision, they got circumcision changed. Right? Doesn't mean they're not Jewish. That doesn't mean that. But if a person's Jewish, if a person's not Jewish, saying a conversion, they don't do that, then yeah, it's a different issue. That'd be a different issue. Yeah. Any other questions? Someone asked, who is your Rebbe? His name is Ramosha Sternbuch. He should be well. Put it up here. Yeah, he's almost 100 years old, but get to see him every so often. You don't have questions, I will go to him. So everyone knows he is my Rebbe. And again, according to everybody, he is the Torah giant of generation. I don't really think there's much to talk about. They might not agree with everything he says, but that's fine. Someone asked, can you touch on the soul of a convert? Again, I'll make very clear. Someone who wants to convert, the only reason that makes sense they want to convert is because their soul was at Mount Sinai, heard the Torah being given, and the soul, and that soul somehow ended up becoming non-Jewish. How to become non-Jewish? Through assimilation and intermarriage. So because of that, again, it's Kabbalah. How does the soul become not Jewish? But anyone who wants to convert, again, whether they come out of paganism, Catholicism, any other so-called religion, right, or paganism, the only thing that makes sense is that their soul is on Mount Sinai. That's why they have the yearning to convert. It's not because they saw contradictions in Christianity, or they saw the fallacy of Islam, or any number of things. Now, you can tell me that's how people came to it, okay, but in general, since a lot of Judaism doesn't make sense logically, a lot of the laws we keep doesn't mean we don't have to try and understand the best of our ability. Since a lot of it doesn't make sense, it's very, if you don't tell me that a non-Jew had that spark that was actually a Jewish spark at Mount Sinai, that doesn't make sense why they want to convert, right? That's why, right? That is why they would want to go through conversion. Imagine the example I always give, imagine on Sukkot, a non-Jew comes to synagogue and they see Jews, during Howells, shaking their lulav and esrog, and they're going like this, they're shaking it like this, and they're shaking it like this, and they're shaking it like that. They're going to say, come on, what planet have you fallen off from? What are they doing? With these palm fronds, these lemon on steroids, right? Your esrog and other, your willows and your myrtle leaves. Again, doesn't mean we don't have to try and understand it, right? Doesn't mean we don't have to try and understand it to the best of our ability. Still have an obligation to do it, right? But does that make, a non-Jew looking at that? See, I grew up with it. Didn't necessarily know what it meant, but I grew up with it. So I know what it was. I know what a sukkah was, more or less. Yeah. Would a non-Jew have any conception what a sukkah is? Or what it means to shake a lulav? Right? Other things may be easier to understand. What eating matzah commemorates, other mitzvahs, okay. But there are plenty of things within Torah. You're going to scratch your head. You're like, what's the point? What's the point over here? It doesn't make sense. Right? This doesn't make sense. That wouldn't make sense. Other things. So what would someone say? Why would they want to convert? But I saw the fallacy in Christianity. Okay. Majority of people have seen that. Okay. So what? Does that mean you have to convert? Doesn't mean you have to convert, but that's why, if your soul wasn't at Mount Sinai, you don't have that yearning. I don't care if people looked into it, they thought about it, they saw contradictions, whatever. They're not going to have the real yearning, right? Unless their spark of that soul was at Mount Sinai. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Logically, it doesn't make sense. Because the more a non-Jew learns about Torah mitzvahs, they see the difficulty in what they have to keep and, whatever. Why do I have to do this? Because questions come up all the time, right? I have milk and meat. I have kosher meat, kosher milk. If I put them together, right, overheats, I can't eat them. Why? Because Torah says I can't do it. That's a chok. The law doesn't make sense logically. If I have kosher meat and kosher cheese, why can't I eat them together? You can try and find reasons why I can't eat them together. Yeah, and try to understand. So the Rambam does a lot in the Moreh Nevuchim, the Guide for the Perplexed, right? But a non-Jew, you're going to question a lot of things, which is fine. Why do I have to do this? And why does God care if I rip toilet paper on Shabbos or not? Right? There are a lot of good questions. Yeah, but they're not coming into it just based on philosophical thought of what contradictions coming from Christianity. Yeah, they're not coming through that. I mean, that's what people do. A lot of people do. But the essence of why they're coming to Judaism is because they have that spark. They have that spiritual spark. Without that spiritual spark, logically, it wouldn't make any sense. Wouldn't make any sense. Somebody asks, what are the qualifications to go to yeshiva for a boy not yet converted? That's a problem. That is a problem because you can only teach them basic things. Right? Most yeshivas are not going to accept a non-Jew before conversion. Most schools will not accept a non-Jew before conversion. Some will, right? Some definitely will, some won't, right? It depends. Right? The qualifications to go to yeshiva, you have to be Jewish. To go to a Jewish school before going to yeshiva, let's say when you're older, right? So that might be a different issue. Again, some places will take them, some places won't take them. And I told people this, and I got hammered by somebody number of years ago, because I told him, you move to a community, doesn't mean the school's going to take your kids. That person was furious. Makes Jewish people look bad, and this and that. Why should we take non-Jews before conversion? Excuse me. Why in the world should we take non-Jews before conversion? They're not Jewish. Yeah. How are they going to learn? They learn other ways, but they're not going to learn that way. right? Some places won't take it. Some will. Some will, but yeshivas aren't going to take a non-Jew in general, right? So that's not even the point. The criteria is you have to be Jewish. That's the criteria. If you're not Jewish, why should they take them? Yeah. Somebody asks, yeah, I have this love from my Rebbe. That is true. What is the one thing that I admire about him? So I'll tell you one thing, and I can write a lot of books, about him. I have got a grandson writes up his Hebrew parsha every week. He's writing a book on different character traits of him, different stories. So, I try and give him some stories put in there. So I got 2 in there already. But I'll say one thing, and that is that he's had a lot of people come out against him for a lot of different things. And at the end of the day, he doesn't really care. Yeah, he's got broad shoulders, whatever, and he does what he needs to do, right? He does what he needs to do. He said, the only person I'm afraid of is God. Can't worry about what people say, what people think, and that's not arrogance, right? That's for sure not arrogance. But, a strong person has to be that way, right? You have to be that way. There are much weaker people that are like that. It's also good, right? That is good within reason. If you get broad enough, shoulders. But somebody like him that, he's had a lot of people come out against him over the years for different things. Fazed by it, right? And one other thing I'll mention is that like he get questions from, all over the world and pretty disgusting questions, and basically he'll give a kvetch, he'll give a sign, he'll go back to learning. Yeah, that's what you have to do. You hear people's woes and people's stories and this and that, but you got to feel their pain, right? For sure, you got to feel their pain. At the same time, you got to give advice the way you need to give advice, and you got to stay strong no matter what, right? No matter what's thrown at you, and that's what he showed me more than anything. More than anything else. Someone has 18. What do you do to get him? That's another issue, right? I'm not going to get into now. It's whatever. I'll say one thing: anyone who has kids, there's no guarantee they're going to go in your path. Just understand, there's no guarantee. And if they don't go in your path, okay, it's their choice. It's their choice. You can show them information. At the bottom, you can show them information. You can have discussions with them. You can lead by example. Does that mean they're going to drink the water? They're going to drink the Kool-Aid? No guarantee. And the person shouldn't expect that either. Now, it can be very depressing. The person, raised them in a certain way. They want them to be this way. They have free choice. They absolutely have free choice. So you can show them information. You can speak to them, try and inspire them, but, no guarantee. As we always say, the only thing guaranteed in life is death and taxes, right? You can't guarantee that. But you can do the best of your ability, showing as an example. And again, even that's not a guarantee. Someone asked, what status of child born from a married Jewish woman and a non-Jew? Child's a Jew. Child's a Jew with a blemish on their soul. So really, technically, they should go through conversion. They should go through if they come back to Torah mitzvahs, they should go through in front of a rabbinical court and go to the mikveh and go through like a proper quote unquote conversion to take off that blemish. But if you didn't do it, you still have that blemish, okay, but you're still a Jew, right? Technically, you're still a Jew. What if someone wants to divorce his wife? It's not possible. What do you mean it's not possible? He fails to present a marriage certificate to basic, and the husband divorced her anyway. What if she doesn't want to take it yet? What if she won't take a bill of divorce? Then, if she won't take a bill of divorce, you can do what we call a heter me'rabbanan. You can have 100 rabbis sign saying that she won't take a bill of divorce, and the person could remarry. What if it could be? What if she's not in the right mind? How and he wants to get divorced and remarry. She's not in the right mind. He can do that through a heter. It happens. There's what we call 100 rabbis can sign a document saying that this person can remarry. if she won't take the bill of divorce or there's something wrong with her mentally. So if someone divorces his wife, it's not possible. There has to be a possible way, right? He fails to present a marriage certificate. Marriage, because husband divorced her. Anyway, if he can't produce, let's say he doesn't have a marriage certificate. Yeah, good question. Um, how would he divorce her if they wanted to get divorced? If he can't produce a marriage certificate, I'm not sure. Not sure. If can't produce, if you can't produce a marriage certificate, they both want to get divorced. Good question. Yeah, I have to think about that one. Yeah, not sure. If you can't produce a marriage certificate, yeah, if they don't have a marriage certificate, how are they going to get divorced? Can't go through a mayor about him because you don't know if they were really married, right? You need proof. You need proof that they were married. Yeah, not sure. Not sure. I have to look into that. Yeah. Any other questions? Someone asked, is it okay to listen to music of Nissim Black if you like that type of music? I don't like that type of music, so doesn't really matter. But if someone likes that type of music, you could listen to it. I just don't happen to like that type of music, but if someone does like that music, that's fine. Yeah. Any other questions? Is it permissible to enjoy paintings and artwork made by non-anti-Semitic painters? There is what to be said for that. There are people who enjoy art, for the sake of art. I would say don't get carried away with it. But if brother wants to go, let's say they want to appreciate art. They're not anti-Semites. Yeah. So you go to an art museum. Can you go to an art museum? Yeah. Nothing wrong with it. Appreciating God's creation, people with the ability to make art. When I make, when I say it's the best thing to do since sliced cheese and whatever, no, but it's appreciation of it, you could do it. Definitely could do it. What are the rules as an artist? I don't know. You can't make full body, right? That's true. Right? You can't make a full bust of a person, more than one dimension. Right? That is true. Abstract wouldn't be a problem. Making pictures of the sun, the moon, the stars, anything in the heavenly sphere, right? More than one dimension would be forbidden. Also, certain animals that are on the Kisei Kavod on the heavenly throne shouldn't do either. Shouldn't make either, as long as there's something different about it. They wouldn't recognize it as necessarily, an animal. Let's say, say like a lion, if it's got, I don't know, if its paw has like, normally three toes or whatever, and you make it two toes, okay. You make it not according to form, that would be okay. But those I would say the general rules. Why are LGBT people march with Palestinian flags? I ask them. That's what they identify with. You know, it, without anything that happened on October 7th, I would say that there are a lot of people that are anti-Israel, that are pro-Palestinian. They're not the only ones. Plenty of other people besides them, but it's like a whole movement that what they identify with. But I would say it's kind of ironic that if you were to ask, if you were to ask Arabs, Muslims, they and someone did this, they were LGBTQ and they asked like quote unquote a moderate, Arab or Muslim, and they say, yeah, these people should be raped and killed and butchered. They're like, oh, we didn't know that. You know, information, it's kind of, you get the right information, you kind of see things a little bit differently. It's like, oh, we didn't know that. They're like, this person was a quote unquote a moderate, a moderate, again, I'm not going into, but a moderate Arab, but yeah, gays in Arab countries are killed. They're killed, they're butchered, they're raped, you know, it's kind of funny to say, oh, we identify with them. Well, it's kind of silly. It's kind of silly if you think about what they think about you and what they would do to you if you were in their country. But again, they feel that's who they identify with. A lot of people identify with, not just them. And it's kind of, it is kind of ironic, just, throw this out there. They go in these marches and this and that. Imagine all pedophiles, like, just started to march. Thieves, adulterers, had certain flag, and, but why are they doing it? Because they want legitimacy. They have all these marches. They want, legitimacy. And it's kind of a crazy thing. Think about it. That's the way they have to get legitimacy. Okay. So why do they march with the, Palestinian flags again? Because that's not right now they're identifying with. That's what I would say. Someone there says an alliance between, evil people. Yeah, maybe. Someone asks, Jewish Learning Institute okay to follow? Is it different than Chabad Jewish Learning Institute? I think is very good. Is it different? Yeah, Chabad. I mean, they look at the world differently than Chabad does, which is not a problem. Chabad's very much in Jewish outreach. They also do Jewish outreach, but again, where they're coming from. Again, Chabad is Hasidic. The JLI is not Hasidic by any stretch. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. You just look at the world, a little bit, a different way of looking at the world. Is it okay to sign up for them? Yes. Am I going to give class on Psalms? Not that I know of. You never know, but not in the works at the moment. Somebody asked, all right, any other questions? How do I push myself to pray? I don't have any good answers. I will say one thing. I will say prayer is something that always needs to be strengthened. One thing I will mention is that even if you're not in the mood, the power of prayer is very strong. Even just by saying the words, it's very powerful, right? And my Ramosha Schneider, my Rebbe's Rebbe, would say that all success in life comes through prayer. He would tell the students of the yeshiva that if you don't pray, in the yeshiva, you shouldn't pray in other places because it makes you look bad. It makes people say, oh, I can sleep late, I can do this, I can do that. But he said all the success of a person comes through prayer. Right? So, that should be enough of motivation. Even if it's hard, even if it seems redundant, whatever, you got to learn. Learn the words of prayer. Buy books on prayer. It's a hard thing. Prayer is a hard thing. It's not an easy thing. Right? But prayer has the ability to change something overnight. So I would say, think about that. And think about what the power of it is and what it can do. Right? That should be inspiring enough for a person to get up. Yeah. Even creation, we're lazy. We want to get up. We're tired. We're this, we're that. We don't feel in tune. Fine. You still got to do it. You still get credit for doing it, even on a low level. Right? But again, if you think about what the power is and what it can do, I would think that's good enough motivation. All right, I'm going to stop there. I do this every Saturday, 2:30 Eastern Time, 9:30 Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com. Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on the Torah portion of the week, which I haven't done in a while. Conversion, Q&As, ethics for fathers. Want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com, which I'm good. Middle of the day, beginning